Hey everyone, welcome to Scandalous Stories. Today's story is I Sent My Mom to a Mental Institution. Hi, I am 30 years old and I come from Europe. I'm writing this story because I sincerely want to know what others, besides my friends, think about this story. My mother and I never really had a good relationship. When my sister and I were little, my mother was hardly ever there. She has been struggling with her mental health for years, including bipolar disorder, anorexia, and depression. This often left me and my sister alone. And that's how we felt, alone and abandoned often. My mother stayed locked in her room for days and hardly ever came downstairs, which resulted that me and my sister had to vent for ourselves. She screamed and snapped at us if we made noise during the day when she was sleeping, or spoke a little too loudly to each other. As a result, my sister and I suffered a lot of trauma. At one point, it got so bad that we moved to another city to live with our father. During all this time, the relationship between me and my mother has always been difficult. I also did not have an easy life. I left home at the age of 19 because things were no longer going well with my father's girlfriend and I. Because of this, I left home without preparation financially and mentally. It was very tough. Then at that time, I also met the father of my child, which was also an incredibly toxic relationship with domestic violence. When I found out I was pregnant, I called my mother because I literally had no one else. I no longer had contact with my father because he chose his girlfriend. I felt hopeless. My mother ordered me to have an abortion and that she will not be a grandmother to my child. With nowhere to go, I chose to stay with the father of my child. I also broke off contact with my mother and went through my pregnancy all alone. All sad and with an ex who had loose hands during my pregnancy. In the meantime, my son was born and my mother tried to contact me again and apologize. I found it very difficult, but slowly I gave it a chance. During this period, I often left home or was kicked out by my ex when we had an argument. Then I often went to my mother with my child, who was still a baby at the time, for sometimes weeks, days, or, in severe cases, months. During this period, she sometimes helped me with my child, which was nice considering I was still studying and working. But that was also difficult. I found it very difficult to forget everything that had happened before. About 5 years ago, I left the father of my child, our house, furniture, everything, because I couldn't stand the physical and mental abuse anymore. I was determined then to build a beautiful life for my child, and from that moment on, I worked a lot and also studied. I had a lot of arguments with my mother and my ex at that time, including lawsuits about access to my child and alimony. My mother sporadically often targeted me by accusing my sister and I of not being there for her, or even threatened suicide, etc. The last year has gone surprisingly well. My child stayed the night once a week, and I even told my sister that I thought our mother had made a lot of progress. Slowly but surely, I started to trust her more with my child, and I felt like I could say more and more to my mother. Every now and then we had discussions here and there, but nothing too serious. My sister also seemed to get along much better with my mother. My life has finally been stable for a year now. I have my own home, car, income, and a good job, and I finally feel balanced. I finally feel better and would like to do more with my child now that things are going well financially. Unfortunately, things went completely wrong last weekend. My mother has been having problems with her husband for a while. Last weekend, she fell into a psychosis and had so many delusions. She was completely paranoid. She saw and heard things. It was really horrible. I then quickly dropped my child off at my girlfriend's house and immediately went to my mother. She had now been picked up by the ambulance. I literally spent 8 hours in the hospital with her. She talked non-stop about bizarre delusions. She was convinced that everything was staged. After all this time, a room has become available for her in a mental institution. I was in favor of it because I really felt she needed help. Later in the evening, she was transported to that institution, and I went to her house to get clothes and deliver them. She claimed she saw the bed and walls moving, so things really weren't going well. The next day, I had many appointments and responsibilities to fulfill. In the afternoon, I received a call from the psychiatrist who indicated that my mother wanted to go home, and we agreed that that was really not wise. He indicated that my mother could call in an hour and keep an eye on the phone. She called me and accused me that this was all my fault for having her locked up, her own daughter. She said, "How could you do this to me?" and that I ruined her life. At that moment, something inside me burst. I was really done with it. I asked her if she was serious about this, and she said, "Yes, I really am." I then said that she can call her husband and sort it out with him. I'm not going to do anything anymore. At that point, I blocked her number on everything and informed my mother's husband that I was now being blamed for all of this and that he could pick it up from then on. I am done. I choose myself now. For my life and for my son, my mental state, and I choose peace. Am I really a bad person if I don't want to go into this anymore? I'm just sick and tired of dealing with this. I don't want it anymore. I am sick and tired. I am choosing me now.